what about this? Let me ask you about a whole different thing. Because of your experience on Gold Base and in proximity to Miscavige, and the fact that you also, because of the work you were doing, you were sending financial requests, purchase orders up and down all the time. So here's this weird thing in Scientology. They won't pay the goddamn staff a living wage. They won't even pay them, period. They're total spendthrifts when it comes to crew welfare. There's all these places where, when I went out on a project or a mission, I was given $20 a day to eat, and I had to account for every single penny. So there's all these places where they're just Scrooge-like in their penny pinching. And then you turn around and there is SUMP. There's Scientology Media Productions, a multi-million-dollar facility that did not need to be built at all because everything they're doing could be done at Gold.
Yeah.
What the hell? What is up with that? What do you think about that? How does he decide? Yeah, what's up with that?
That's a David Miscavige thing. If Chris wants to build something, we don't have any money. If David Miscavige wants to build something, we have an unlimited budget. And that's really, at the end of the day, I mean, in my book, that's the one time that I got beat up by David Miscavige, was over money. I was the producer, Golden Era Productions, and I was responsible for making all these lectures and books that were going to be released. That years later, they came out, years after I left, they came out as the Basics, which were all these books and all these lectures on CDs. And Dave Miscavige dubbed it the Basics. Well, we've been working on the Basics for a decade at the base. And they were supposed to be released in about a certain amount of time. And with the machines and the production facilities we had there at the base, we weren't going to make the deadline that he had given. He said we had like a year or two where they all had to be produced. I said, in order to be able to produce that amount of stuff, we need to buy like $2.5 million worth of equipment. I was taken off post because I wanted to spend $2.5 million.
Oh, of course.
It was like, all you guys, you just want toys, you just want to spend money, screw you, you're out of here. Okay, well, I ended up actually getting made the person directly in charge of the production, the director of AV manufacturing. So instead of being over all production, I was just over the production that I screwed up not figuring out how we were going to get it made. And then Dave Miscavige took it upon himself, and with the CST guys, this guy named Russ Bellin, who was the commanding officer of CST, which is the Church of Spiritual Technology. They're the ones that put all L. Ron Hubbard's materials on metal plates and gold records and seal them in hermetically sealed titanium capsules and put them into an underground vault in the side of a mountain. Okay, these guys are awesome at spending money. They're spending millions and millions of dollars. So Dave Miscavige says, okay, screw you, Mark Headley. You want to spend $2.5 million. I'm going to go get Russ. We're going to figure out how to do this. So he comes back with this plan. He doesn't want to spend $2 million. He wants to spend $20 million.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. They put a freaking elevator in the building that we had. It didn't have an elevator the whole time there.
Of course they did.
Added an elevator.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Well, it was like, you can't put a print shop on the second floor and then put all the finishing on the first floor. There's no elevator. Dave Miscavige is like, there will be when I'm done. I'm going to blow an elevator in this bitch. Okay. Well, so I get taken off post for $2.5 million. He spends 20. We're walking through and he's like, oh, you're going to get it done now, aren't you? And of course, I couldn't resist. I said, well, yeah, you spent $20 million. We could do whatever the hell you want. We could produce them by next week at this point. Anyway, he did a little punching bag on my face there for that one. And then I was going to punch it back, and then I got carried out of the building, and that's the rest of the story's in the book. But either way, he didn't want to spend 2.5 when it was my idea.
Right.
But when it's his idea, 20, let's spend 25 million. Who knows? And guess what? This is the best part of all. That shit didn't come out until like 5 years after I blew.
Exactly.
Like, I'm pretty sure it came out I want to say it came out in 2009, maybe even 2010, maybe even later. I don't know when they finally released it. But even with all that, they still didn't get it done. We produced The e-meters that came out, those were built and sitting on the shelf when I left.
In 2005.
This new Mark 8 Ultra e-meter, blah, blah, blah. It was so old that they wanted to update it so you could plug it into a computer. And it had a DB9 port on the back, like the really old style connector that you would use like for your modem, or you would use for like a mouse, like, or a printer, or like it was called, I think it's called RS-232. It's a really old type of computer connection. Those e-meters sat there so long, they had to open up every single e-meter, take that thing out, and put an Ethernet port in there. That's how old it was. And even the Ethernet they should have put in there. They should have just put USB. But regardless, these people aren't the smartest. They're not the smartest tools in the shed. But either way, those e-meters were sitting on the shelf when I left, and they didn't even release them until years and years and years and years later. And they were like, these are modern technology. No, they're not. Those things are from 8 years ago, man. Those things are so old. You guys had to take parts out of them that we didn't have on the, like literally, they had parts on them that were so old that computers were made and built that stopped using those connectors for long enough that no computers had those connectors on them by the time they released them. Or not that many, not enough that it would make them usable. But yeah, dude, that facility in Los Angeles is a carbon copy of What's It Gold. That Scientology media productions place. We had all that stuff at Gold years ago, but guess what? There's a bunch of SPs at Gold. Dave Miscavige is always paranoid of those people at the base saying they're trying to kill him, they're trying to poison him, they're out to get him, they're ruining Scientology, they're suppressive persons. These are the top executives in all of Scientology. He has declared them suppressive, and they still work there to this day, still. And they're probably still declared suppressives. So he doesn't want, and the other problem, there was always the problem of the base. It's impossible to get anybody to come there. It's in the middle of nowhere, out in the middle of the desert. It's a 2-hour drive from Gold with no traffic. And when you're trying to get actors and actresses up there, and also that's where he lives, that's where L. Ron Hubbard's mansion is, they didn't think this through in the early days. Like, this is going to be the most top secret facility. We're going to use actors that are not Scientologists to come here. And how it's, anyway, so in the end, they bought that studio. They probably paid several million for the studio. Then they paid several million to upgrade it and do all this stuff. And guess what? What do they do there? Nobody knows. They're not making anything anyone gives a shit about. And they certainly aren't resulting in anybody getting to Scientology. There's even less people in Scientology than when they opened the goddamn thing, or whatever, a year or two ago. There's less people now that are in Scientology when they opened a few years ago. So like, it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters what they do at this point, that there's no way for them to keep the genie in the bottle anymore. There's enough people leaving. And when you have somebody like Leah Remini leave, and she just starts telling all this shit that happened, that there's no, so now basically everybody knows if they leave and they talk shit, they're not going to do anything. 20 years ago, you don't know what would happen if you talk smack about them after you left.